Okay, so this was supposed to be one of those routine cabinet check-ins. You know, show up, deflect, blame Biden, talk about border security, go home. Instead, it turned into a full-on political car crash. And the wildest part, it wasn't just Democrats unloading on her. Republicans, her own party, Trump's own people. And somehow, in the middle of all of it, Kristi Noem didn't just defend herself. She basically dragged Donald Trump into the blast zone with her. So after months of controversy, allegations of corruption, reckless deportation tactics, questionable spending, legal stonewalling, Secretary Kristi Noem finally had to testify before Congress. And unlike some other hearings we've seen where Trump officials come in swinging, Noem looked stunned, like she walked into the wrong courtroom. Lawmakers accused her of violating court orders, undermining civil rights, and turning immigration enforcement into a PR machine. And that's where things started getting very bad.
You are violating the separation of powers, violating court orders, and routinely violating the civil rights of Americans. This is a reckless and out-of-control agency that you are responsible for. You seem to have no situational awareness whatsoever of some of the most egregious examples of Americans being completely attacked, violated, undermined in accordance with our laws by their own government. And this is what is phenomenal to me, is immigration was your president's number one issue, overwhelmingly popular with the American people. But now it's overwhelmingly unpopular. And it's not because you are deporting dangerous people that everybody here wants out of our country. No, it's because you're going into our schools. You're terrorizing our children. You're detaining children. You're arresting Americans. You're breaking into our homes.
And you're saying that you're testifying that President Trump approved this ahead of time. Is that my understanding?
We had conversations about making sure that we were telling people.
No, ma'am. I'm asking you, sorry to interrupt, but the president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly.
Did the president know you were going to do this?
Yes.
He did?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And one thing, Senator, I think would be helpful to know is how effective that communications has been. That
they
overwhelmingly
were effective in your name recognition.
That's the sound of someone throwing their boss directly under the bus. Because instead of saying that was a departmental communications decision or it followed internal guidelines, she said Trump approved it, personally. So now, every questionable ad buy, every self-promotional commercial, every dollar critics say was misused, that's no longer just Kristi Noem's problem. That's Trump's signature on it. And it didn't stop there, because then Senator Thom Tillis, Republican from North Carolina, walked in ready for blood. Apparently, he had tried to reach out to Noem about deportation tactics in his state, and she ghosted him. Not exactly how you build allies in your own party. So when it was his turn to speak, he unloaded.
Who does Tom Homan work for? You or the president?
the president.
Okay. Why is that? Because I believe the president recognized that you weren't getting it done in Minneapolis, and you're putting us further away from pointing to this. We're beginning to get the American people to think that deporting people is wrong. It's the exact opposite. The way you're going about deporting them is wrong. The fact that you can't admit to a mistake, which looks like under investigation, is going to prove that Ms. Good and Mr. Petty probably should not have been shot in the face and in the back. Law enforcement needs to learn from that. You don't protect them by not looking after the facts. Not only should the FBI be investigating it, but every single law enforcement agency in that jurisdiction should be invited to it, so our law enforcement officers do not have this pall cast upon them. One of the reasons why ICE officers are having threats, and damn the people that threaten ICE officers, because so many of them are doing a good job, is because you've cast a pall on them by acting like we should investigate things differently. Officer-involved shootings have a formula that we should go through every time. And we're not going through that formula. As a matter of fact, in Ms. Good's case, I think that they were even saying that maybe there wasn't even a need to do it.
He accused her of mishandling investigations, of damaging law enforcement credibility, of refusing accountability. And then, unbelievably, he brought up her own book, specifically the part where she described killing a 14-month-old dog as a leadership lesson.
Secretary, I read your book last week. And honestly, some of the parts of it impressed me, but some of it distresses me. And I'll give you a good example of one that does. The passage where you talk about killing a dog that was 14 months old. I train dogs, all right? And you are a farmer. You should know better. You should know that if you're going out to a hunting lodge and you're putting pheasants out and you're putting dogs out, you don't take a puppy out there. A 14-month-old dog is basically a teenager in dog years. You decided to kill that dog because you had not invested the appropriate time in training, and then you have the audacity to go into a book and say it's a leadership lesson about tough choices. It's in your book. We could play it if we had time. At that same lunch hour, you killed a goat. And you killed the goat because you said it was behaving badly. You are a farmer. You don't castrate a goat, they behave badly. You should have probably done that before, but my point is, those are bad decisions made in the heat of the moment, not unlike what happened up in Minneapolis. We're an exceptional nation. And one of the reasons we're exceptional is we expect exceptional leadership. And you've demonstrated anything but that in the time that I've seen you responding to the emergency in North Carolina and across the Southeast and acknowledging when mistakes are made.
You could feel the air leave the room. This wasn't partisan theater. This was a Republican senator publicly questioning whether she has the temperament to lead anything. And then came the nuclear option. Tillis submitted a letter from the Office of Inspector General alleging obstruction under her leadership. 10 instances of being misled or blocked from investigations. And then he said if he doesn't get answers, he's freezing Senate business, blocking nominations, denying quorum, grinding confirmations to a halt. That's not small. That's a direct threat to Trump's ability to staff his own government. And why does that matter? Because Trump has already fired or sidelined huge swaths of federal leadership. There are dozens of vacancies. If Tillis follows through, Trump's agenda stalls. Not because of Democrats, because of his own party. And here's the part nobody at Mar-a-Lago is happy about. Every time Noem was accused of misconduct, she didn't distance herself from Trump. She didn't say, "I take responsibility." She said the administration backed her. She said Trump approved. She said this was coordinated. Which means if investigations expand, if funding misuse becomes a formal inquiry, if Senate Republicans decide they're tired of defending chaos, Trump's name is attached to all of it. That's the real story here. Not just a messy hearing, but cracks inside the GOP. Because when Republican senators start threatening to paralyze confirmations, that's not optics, that's leverage. And Trump hates losing leverage. So yeah, this wasn't just Kristi Noem struggling under oath. This was a cabinet secretary under pressure, pointing upward. And the person she pointed at is the same guy who picked her. And if this turns into subpoenas, or blocked nominees, or a broader internal rebellion, this might be the moment people look back at and say, that's when the panic started. Because nothing rattles a White House more than when the knives come out from inside the building.